Hi, I'm Jenny Raleigh, Director of Grace Christian Preschool and Kindergarten.
And I'm Judy Luther, and I guess I started the kindergarten.
Today, Judy and I are getting together because we will be celebrating 50 years of Grace Preschool and Kindergarten serving the Dallas community and surrounding communities. And we just thought it would be a fun time to get together and hear about the history of Grace Preschool and Kindergarten. So my first question for Judy is, how did Grace Kindergarten, started as a kindergarten and not a preschool, how did it get started?
Well, I moved to town the summer of 1970, and my late husband was a student at Washington State, so he left immediately and went back up to school and left my children and I with the orders to find a church. So we visited churches, and when I visited Grace, I was in an adult Sunday school class, and they asked me where I came from and what I did, and I said I had just moved to town and was a kindergarten teacher, and left it at that. And then about 2 months later, I was invited to a coffee at another teacher's home, and Shirley Schmidt was there. And she didn't say anything directly to me, but one of the ladies said to her, "So how are things with your church now?" And she said, "Oh, we've got big plans." She said, we're thinking about starting a kindergarten if we can get a certain person to be the kindergarten teacher." And I was just listening, and I said, "Who would that be?" And she said, "Well, we were wondering if you would come back and see what we have in mind." And so there you go. So I came to the church and met with Shirley and two other people, and at this point I can't remember exactly who they were, but she was kind of the driving force. And they showed me the classroom that would be mine. We walked in, and I don't know if you're familiar with the classroom I started in, but it's that middle floor long room.
Okay, yes.
Maybe it's been divided now, I don't know, but above the basement. Okay.
Gotcha.
That's important, above the basement.
Right.
Because you could hear well. Anyway, and so we walked into that room, and it was bare. There was not a table, not a chair, not anything. There was one bulletin board on one side. And apparently, I asked Shirley later, "What made you think that I could?" She said, "Well, you were the only person we showed the room to who said this room has a lot of potential." So, and I remembered saying to her, "Will there be some tables and chairs?" And she said, "Yes, we have 2 tables and some Sunday school chairs we'll put in here." And I said, "Well, that's a start." So she asked me if I would consider taking the job. And I was happy at that thought, but I went home thinking, how do you start in a new town, a new person, knowing no one?
Absolutely.
And a weird thing happened that year. I don't know if it's ever happened since, because I've never seen one since, but the Census Bureau put out a little book that gave the names and addresses of every person in town and the birth dates of their children. And so I scoured every line of that book and wrote out every address of and met with every child that was born in '66. That was just kind of how I went through that whole thing of all of the Dallas area. And then I wrote out a personal letter to every single one of those people that were in that little book. And I got 16 wonderful responses. And we started with 16 children.
Okay.
And I remember calling and saying, "Is 16 enough?" They had told me that the children would have to pay $20 a month and that I would receive $60 a month. And that was fine.
Yeah.
You know, we were starting, we were new. The things we did, I cringe to think that I did them now, and I'm going to say it out loud right now, and every insurance man in the world will be on my... If it was a beautiful day and I drove a Volkswagen bus, I could get 16 children in that bus. We didn't have seatbelt worries then.
Just pack them in there.
I did, and I would just say to them, "Okay, everybody has a space, and I am the bus driver. I cannot watch what's happening here. Buses Volkswagen buses had a big square area in the
Okay.
back, and then an aisle down the side.
Okay.
So
It
we
was
had
a lot
'em
like a
in the
school
seats.
bus then.
I had them on the aisle, I had them in the back, and we would drive to the city park and do our lesson in the city park and drive back again, and there were the parents.
Well,
They
I
were ready
bet
for
the
us.
kids loved that.
Oh, we drove to the Wheatland Ferry, and we'd cross back and forth on the ferry.
Wow.
And the kids just, they were so good, and I look back on that and wonder how that all happened. Really, I do. And I shared with you the picture. I go out here to Rick Riel and see my little friend Glenn Stoller. He was one of my first, and he still thinks of me as his kindergarten teacher. And I said,
That's
"Well, you were
amazing.
my best little farm boy."
Yeah. Well, what special memories you were
Yeah.
making with them. So much that they still remember you
Yeah.
and they remember that experience. So.
It was great. It was a good time. But what happened with the 16? It grew to 25 the next year. So 25, I had to cut it off at 25 because I had minimal tables. A fellow in the church named Henry Ediger came in one day and he said to me, "What would you need most?" And I said, these fold-up tables, I wish we could make some of those. And he came back to see me and he said, "I went to the lumberyard over in Salem and they have little short legs that we can make them. We'll just buy some plywood and make some." So we made a series of little short tables, and the people in the church, now I wasn't attending church here, I was attending at EMB at that time, and but the people would come to me and say, "Is there anything at all you need?" And little things like Dr. E.A. Fleming said to me one day, "Could you use an extra $20 a month?" Just stuff like that was so valuable because for sure we had a little metal box at the back door up on those steps, and Pope Dairy would come and deliver jungle juice and milk once a week. So I would run them downstairs to the basement. That was the catchy thing about it. I'd have to say to the children, "Okay, I need to go down and get our snacks." I can hear everything and you could hear a pin drop. It didn't matter. But I got to tell you, the tables we had were kidney shaped, and everything rolled to the middle because the inside legs, I don't know why they put the inside legs shorter, but everything rolled down. So if a crayon got loose, it boom, and it sounded like a bomb went off.
Oh, how funny.
So I could hear if something happened, and they would fold their hands and wait for me. I would dash. I ran like crazy down the stairs, all the way down, clear to the basement, to the refrigerator, back up with the jungle juice. And we would have a cracker and our juice each day. Because I was tight with money, and there was no money really, and so I would buy certain things. And when people donated, that's when, from the church, if they donated after some event down in the basement or whatever they had for things for the church, they would always say, "We left cookies in the refrigerator for kindergarten," and so it was wonderful.
Oh, that's great.
But I would gather the broken cookies. And I made a huge deal over Broken Cookie Day, because Broken Cookie Day, they got to spread their napkin out and have more than one piece.
Oh, they probably love Broken Cookie Day.
It was Broken Cookie Day. We had that once a month. I could put a mix of everything in there, and they acted like it was the best thing that ever happened.
That's so smart. Take something that seems like it's not so great and turn it into a buffet, right? Making lemonade out of lemons.
So, even today, when I run into a kindergarten, they'll say, "I remember Broken Cookie Day." Really?
That's such a great memory.
Big
I love
deal.
that. Oh, how wonderful. I love that. What
Scratching
fun
an old
memories.
brain here. Oh, I got a really bad headache one day, and I was kind of sitting and holding my head, and Ted came in and he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I'm really working on a headache." And he said, "You need to go home then." And I said, "No, there is no one. I'm it, Ted." And he said, "No." So we sat and prayed, and I went through the day, but it made the church then work into a possibility of a substitute someday if I needed a substitute. And I never ever needed one. So it worked out great just knowing that I had somebody. But then I asked Ted if after he prayed with me, I said, "I think my children need a little chapel time." And he was excited about that. So there's an upstairs room on this side, and I went up and built these little chapel windows and put, and so we started having chapel, because I didn't want it in the classroom.
Okay.
I wanted them to leave the
Right,
classroom and
right.
have that time, and then Ted would come up and teach a little 10-minute lesson, and
That's great.
he was a sweetheart. He was the best man. So we started with that 16, the next year it was 25, and then the next year was 50. And so 3 years into it was 50. I was doing 2-a-days. And that's when we decided to pull another person in. So Judy Schellenberg came on deck and started with the 4-year-olds. And she was just down the hall from me. Unfortunately, my son was one of those 4-year-olds. So sometimes she had to come down, knock on the door, and say, "I think you need to come down and take care of this." And so we worked on that sometimes too. But it was, she was great. It was great just having another person in the building. Another thing that it was kind of my own little bias. I was kind of against what they called, because my daughter went through an EMB, kindergarten graduation.
Oh.
So rather than having kindergarten graduation, I had kindergarten celebration.
Oh, yeah.
And so I started a maypole.
Okay.
So we'd practice the maypole. And then along with that, I had a little operetta, so that they would do a musical, like we did Henny Penny one year, and just little musicals. And then they would sing the songs that they'd learned throughout the year, and they would just shout them out. The kids were, and so we did one out here on the parking lot, and they did the maypole first, and then we did our little operetta, and then they sang their songs. We did one over on the lawn, and we did a couple of them because of weather in the basement. But that was our year-end celebration, and at that time I just invited the parents, and it wasn't a big show or anything, but the kids loved doing it. They really loved doing the maypole.
I bet they did. How fun.
Yeah, that was a big learning lesson for us, that routine.
Yes.
Yeah. Practice.
That's right.
And they
loved.
loved
Good for them to do that. Though.
Yeah, it was. It was a good physical activity, and they would say, "Can we go down and practice the maypole?" And I'd say, "Well, we'll do that at recess time." And,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and then they're so proud too to show their parents what they have accomplished.
Because I got I don't know, the core out of carpeting and made a standard for it, so it was quite high.
Yeah.
And then I would take muslin and tape it around the inside, and then they would look at how they had woven that as they did it. Well, then when I made that ribbon, when they got to see their ribbon and all the bright colors of their ribbon woven, and they would just stand back and say, "Look at how beautiful it is." and it really was pretty. They would weave it all the way down, and we'd tie it, and then we'd march off and sing, and it was fun. It was a good activity.
Might have to bring back the maypole.
Really, it is. Once they learned that opposite direction and in and out and in and out, they learn it well, and they you could see their little eyes coming towards somebody and say, they push that person.
Remember which way they're supposed to go.
Touch each other. I'd laugh. Sometimes I think, "Oh, you kids are better than better." But it was fun. A lot of fun. And then the 4th year into it, I asked if there was a possibility they could hire another person to do the second half the day, and I was teaching half days. And then I received the letter from the state saying that if I did not get my certification was running out for public teaching, and so I gave the school notice that I was going to either have to get a public job or we could not afford for me to go back to school. I went to college under a real, it was a kind of a hardship situation as it was, and it drained me of all of, I just knew that I couldn't go back and afford to go that route again with a family. So I gave the church notice that I was going to need to search for a public job, and it was a hard decision to make, and a hard time for me to get it away.
I'm sure.
Yeah. But the church was pretty understanding. And from there on, I could not tell you the number of staff people. Sue Mosley, Sheila Buswell, you know, a number of the ladies that were that I'm in touch with, and then of course Liz Fast.
Right.
And I'm sure it goes on and on beyond that. I did not keep track of it because I went on and did other things. But I've always had a heart here, and my grandchildren and great grandchildren. So it's, you know, it just keeps on going. And I was so thankful that, and you shared a little bit with me that briefly the kindergarten closed, and and on the tails of probably going public. But I'm thankful it's only briefly, because it is a valuable, it is a huge asset to this community. And it was not, as you and I discussed, it was not all academic. It was mostly learning to do people stuff.
Yes, social, emotional, which is so important, and it still is so important.
Yes, it is. It's, in fact, I would say probably today, with the things that are bombarding the children, the little devices that they have in their hands, I would say that what you do in here, that is interaction, is far more important than when it was in my day. Because I think our parents had more interaction with the children.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think so.
If you had one thing you could tell families about Grace Preschool and Kindergarten, what would it be? What would you want them to know?
I would say from the time that I have interacted since my leaving, that the caring aspect of it, and having, I don't know how often you're able to pray or have God in their
We still have chapel time.
Okay.
We have chapel every week, and the teachers always pray with the students at least once a day.
Okay.
In the class.
That's right. And as we could over our snack, you know, we could have a brief prayer over a snack. I could even ask children if they wanted to do the snack prayer. And those things may seem little, but they're huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When you get to this age, you know how huge.
Absolutely.
It's very important, very important. And I used to say to people, they'd say, you taught that many kids for, you know, less than $100 a month. And I said, you know what? Those were my mission years.
Absolutely.
That was my mission. I knew in my heart that I was doing this for a reason other than a living. It was not, I mean, it was not a period of time when I would have even, you know, and like I saw children out here playing on the playground, I could come here and work and bring my children and they could play while I was doing it. I mean, it was a working mom's perfect condition. I don't know if you're handed a curriculum, you can dive away from your curriculum. You can take all the time in the world for one issue if you need it. And that's the beauty of having this. The public schools, you know, if you need that extra time today, you take it.
That's right.
That's right.
You can be flexible with your time and meet the children's needs where they're at.
That's exactly right. Right then. Right then. Not put it off and say, well, we'll address this another day.
That's right.
And that's what I would say is so valuable about this. Yeah. That, and that you can have God here every day.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Sharing the love of Christ with every child.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
What a blessing. Judy, thank you so much for visiting with me and sharing all those wonderful stories and memories.
Overdo it.
No, it was wonderful. I love to hear all those. What a fabulous insight.
The people in your group that listen are going to say, oh, I had no idea those things were going on.
Well, it was a different time.
It was a different time. Thankfully, it was a different time.
Yeah, and some of those things I feel like we miss out on now because we're so careful about things that sometimes we can't have quite as much
just
spontaneity or fun.
Put them all in one vehicle and drive them to the park. And
That's right.
No, think about that.
Yeah.
No seatbelts, no thought to what would happen if. No parent permission slip.
Yeah.
I would drive back and the parents say, "You did what?" Oh, how wonderful.
Right,
I think,
right. It
you
wasn't
did
the
what?
question.
You went to the park.
Might get a different reaction.
You didn't ask?
In this day and age, yeah.
Yeah, it was just a different time.
It was a different time, yeah, a simpler time
Well,
in a lot of ways, but
I bet you have other things you need to do
oh,
with this.
no, it's all right. It's been so fun
Thank
visiting
you.
with you.
Thank
I really
you.
enjoyed it.
Well, I hope it's worthwhile. I
Yeah.
hope that it was bound to do nothing but grow. And you've been very careful to hire people who care, and that's another part in it too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we have an amazing staff team that just loves their kid, loves their students.
Yes.
So, yeah.
No, that's right.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
exactly right.
So, all right.
Did I cover
Thank
everything?
you. I think you did.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank you. More than you wanted.
Thank you, Judy. No, that was
Thank
perfect.
you, Isaac.